To episode 45. This week, we are going to start talking about underpricing. Underpricing is one of the trickiest things that people come up against in the world of running a money making business, right? It is this dangerous thing because we feel like if we charge less, it'll be easier for people to buy what we have. And if we charge less, it'll be harder for them to say no and all of these things. But actually, none of that is true. What's really interesting about underpricing is it's a lose-lose. It is a loss for you as the business owner because you don't get the money that you want from the equation. You're not making the money you need in your business. You're frustrated. You don't feel like your time is being valued. And then it's also a lose for the person you're serving because they're not getting the version of you that is like absolutely over the moon with what you're being paid, with all of these things. And that's not to say you're going to show up like cranky or you're not going to give them the best service you have. It's a whole lot easier to show up and love what you do when you're making the money you want than it is when you're like, oh gosh, but like, I feel like I should be making so much more than $20 an hour, right? It is underpricing and changing pricing so that it's based truly in the value your clients are getting from the work you do is one of the things my most successful clients do. This is something they figure out that they really work to get straight because it's really about their mindset, how they think about money, and how they think about the value they're giving other people. This is one of the big differences between my most successful clients and other businesses is that they have given up on underpricing themselves. They are not here for that. This week, we're going to talk about 4 strategies, 4 ways to think about this so that you can stop underpricing yourself like today, because it really does such a disservice to you and to all the people you serve. Underpricing is not you showing up at your best. It's just not. And I know like people argue this with me, but it's just not. There's no version where we are happiest when we're not getting what we're worth. We would rather show up thrilled, right? For all the money. Like that would be way better. So strategy number 1 is to stop thinking about how much it costs you to do. Stop thinking about what you feel like they're willing to pay. Take the word affordable and throw it out the window. Affordability is an opinion. It is your judgment. And you thinking to yourself, well, I want this to be affordable for them, is you judging whether or not they're going to pay what you're worth. It is none of your business if it is affordable. Affordable isn't a thing. Affordable is in the eye of the beholder. It's like Starbucks. Some people would rather die than pay $5 for a cup of coffee. Some people do it every day. It's affordability and their view on affordability that really makes the difference there. So if you're thinking, well, I want my pricing to be affordable, it is time to let that go because it's garbage. That's you judging. Instead of thinking about it that way, think about what you're offering and what that is worth to your clients. Like I offer business coaching. So when I work with clients, what they get is a sounding board to bounce all of their ideas against. They get somebody who's experienced, who's made all the mistakes, who's seen all the mistakes, who can say to them like, oh, hey, you know what, if you go down this route this way, you can try it, but here's what's most likely to happen. Like, let's rethink this. They get someone who can teach them the new skills they need, help them to practice, help them get out of their own way. And for them, that can be worth in their business tens of thousands of dollars. It can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over time, just in dollars. But it's also like I have a client who gets on every week and who's like, this is my favorite hour of the week. I feel heard. And that is life changing. So I'm going to price what I do based on the difference it makes for them, based on the impact for them, rather than on my feelings of affordability for them. I am not going to like price it at $1 million because I, there is some room for realism here, but there is not you cannot just sit in affordability. The other thing that people say to me all the time is I have one client who started with Bright, but this thing I'm doing for them, it's so easy for me to do. Yeah, it is. That's why it's your superpower, but it is not your clients. So think about something that's really hard for you to do that you get help with, that you've paid for help with, and how freaking happy you are to pay that person, right? Like, there are a couple of things. Like, I actually had a consultation today with someone that's helping me pick out new glasses and new frames. We did it over the internet. She was like, it's going to be $150 for the consultation, and then we'll talk about the glasses afterwards. And I was like, sure, I will give her whatever she wants. I want to be happy with the glasses that I'm going to need to wear every day. That is life changing for me. So I'm willing to pay that. I was like, sure, great, here's my card. Like, I couldn't wait to pay her. And that's the thing. It's easy for her, but it is worth it to me. Think about that as you're pricing. The second thing that can help you stop undercharging is to actually calculate your like real hourly rate. Because here's the thing that we do. We think like, oh, that sounds affordable. And, that sounds like the price I want to make it. And we just leave it there. And then we don't ever stop and go like, oh, okay, so for every person I work with, that's going to be 10 hours. So if I charge them $400 for this work and it's going to take me 10 hours to do, I'm getting $40 an hour. There are so many cases where clients have said to me, okay, I'm going to start this new package. I'm going to build this new service. Here's how I'm going to charge for it. And I've said to them, okay, what's the hourly rate of that? They'll say, oh, it's going to be $1,000. It's going to take me 20 hours of work. And we do the math and they're like, oh, I don't want to make that per hour. Like, that seems crazy. And the problem is that most of the time, we're not thinking like, oh, if I do it like that, I'm making $50 an hour. And then when you get down to that calculation, you're like, my time is worth more than $50 an hour. Are you guys crazy? And so when you actually do the math in a lot of cases, especially for my clients that run some kind of coaching or tutoring business, when you get down to like, well, it's going to be a $600 package and we'll meet 10 times, it's like, well, but yeah, it's $60 an hour, except you're doing prep work on either end. And if you do a half hour of prep work every week, we're like, all of a sudden the rate is like plummeting. So you really do want to have a sense of your hourly rate and keep it in mind. Like, you are worth more than $30 an hour. There is no one listening to this, truly, that isn't worth more than that if they're running their own business. Like, you have skills, people should pay for them. As the meme on the internet goes, like, it took me 15 minutes to do this for you today, but 20 years to learn how to do it that fast. So they need to pay for your experience and your expertise. It's not just worth $30 an hour. The third thing to think about is to consider the full range of what people pay for what you offer. Like, I think people who tutor are a good example. When you do some level of tutoring or student coaching, because I have a lot of listeners that do that and a lot of clients, there are people out there on the internet tutoring and coaching right now for $20 an hour, for $10 an hour, for $15. And we think about ourselves in relation to them. And we think like, oh gosh, but if I charge 50 or 60, like, I'm so much more expensive. Well, yeah, because you are worth so much more, but that's a whole separate conversation. What we don't think about is what is at the other end of the equation. So for every person, every 10 people maybe charging $20 an hour, there are probably 2 or 3 charging $200 or $300. Maybe you don't want to go that far, but it is entirely possible that you are somewhere closer to the middle. But when we don't think about the full range of prices at either end, when we don't think like, oh, okay, wait, like for coaches, it's the same. I know coaches that do 6-month packages that are $1,500, that are $3,000, that are whatever. And I know coaches that do 6-month packages that are $50,000. And then when I think about my pricing in the middle of that full range and my full understanding, it's like, oh, well, then I'm not out of scale. Like we think we're out of scale because we only think of what's at the bottom. We don't think about the top, but the top is there and it is higher than you think. And when you think about it in scale, suddenly it doesn't feel so outlandish for you to be charging $150 an hour or $200 an hour or what have you. It feels like, oh, well, I'm charging $150 an hour. There are people out there charging $400 or $500 an hour for their time. This is not crazy. People pay for this. And really, the other thing to think in this same bucket is like, there are a limited number of people you can serve. So if you think about how many people you could possibly serve in a year, like for me, it's probably 30 or 40. What you say when you're like, well, but there are not going to be enough people to pay my rate. Like I'm going to charge $200 an hour to do this coaching, tutoring, whatever with students. And there are not going to be enough people to pay my rate. What you're saying is that there are not 40 people on the planet who would pay you for that. And that's insane because there are 3 billion people and tons of families who need you. So when you're downplaying what you are willing to take, when you're underpricing, what you do basically is say like, oh, well, but I have to be open to more people because there aren't enough people that would pay me at this price, when there are. Like, it's just bad math. And here's the last strategy. Honestly, if you're listening to this, you probably know you're someone that underprices. You know you have a tendency to undercharge for your time and your value, and you're thinking about it. So the easiest way to change this is to add 10% or 20% even to what you're charging right now. Like I would say maybe 70% of the time when new clients start working with me, the first thing we do is raise their rates. Not every time, it depends. And sometimes we do it slowly, like we make a plan to do it slowly over time. But like I was talking to a potential client a couple of weeks ago, and she said to me, oh, I've been doing some consulting too. And I said, oh, what are you charging? She was like, oh, I'm doing, I forget what kind of consulting, marketing, maybe social media, something like that. And she was like, oh, I probably undercharged. I charged $50 an hour. Holy moly. Yeah. And I said, like we probably need to double that at the minimum, because the average growing rate for like a marketing strategist, a marketing consultant, a social media consultant is closer to $200 an hour. So the people that are paying you are like, holy crap, like this is great, because they know how good she is, but also she's like, yeah, I didn't do it right. And she's not feeling as good about it. That time money trade isn't as good as it could be because she's not winning from it. Everybody should be able to feel good about it, and that includes you. So it's entirely possible that you could add 10, 20, even 50% to your rate right now and get closer to where you should be. It is okay to raise, and there are processes. It's pretty simple actually to raise rates and to talk to your current clients about it when they renew or the next time they buy a package or whatever. People spend a lot of mental time and energy thinking through like, how do I raise my rates? When actually most of the time people are just like, okay, cool. It is not as complicated as it seems. So stop underpricing. That is the lesson for today. Take what you need from these strategies today and let me know how it works. Like, tell me about how you're raising your rates, because when you get paid what you're worth, you get to do more good in the world. When you are valued, when you are paid your value, that good spreads. Your abundance creates abundance for others. This is the lesson, right? So you getting paid more allows you to pay other people more, allows them to pay other people more. It is a virtuous cycle. It is not a cycle we should feel bad about. Like, we have to get out of our heads this affordability, the guilt, the rest of it. None of it belongs here. Let it go. And if you need help figuring this out, this is hands down one of the most common things new clients come to me for help with. Pricing is feels like a really big thing, but can be very simple to both change, adjust, and make you feel much, much better about. It is not a complicated problem to solve. And I promise that we will solve it really quickly in your business, because it really does. And then I'll listen. I'm not going to force a price on you, but I will help you come to something you feel really good about and your clients also feel really good about. And that's important. If you have questions, please ask. You can email me at sarah@torpycoaching.com. You can come to my website and book a time to have a free consult call. You should, especially if you want to talk about pricing and how your pricing is impacting your business. And then if you are not in my free Facebook group, today is the day to join. There are all kinds of resources in there, and you should come play because it's full of amazing former teachers just like you. And what better group to be in? I can't wait to hear how your pricing goes, and I will talk to y'all next week.